Cannons boom, musket fire crackles, smoke is billowing everywhere, the shouts of men, the clash of ships as their masts crash together like thick trees in an ancient wood, fighting for space. And on the deck of a battleship, a one-eyed hero lay dying. The man who planned it all so perfectly, Lord Admiral Horatio Nelson, one of the greatest heroes Britain has ever seen. But at the hour of his greatest victory at the Battle of Trafalgar came a tragedy. An enemy sniper from the mizzen top of a French ship fired down the quarterdeck of HMS Victory, and Nelson was shot through the spine. He would soon be dead. In J.M.W. Turner's The Battle of Trafalgar, as seen from the Mizen Starboard Shrouds of the Victory, we see the most dramatic point of the battle unfold. We're looking down at Nelson from exactly the height where his assassin pulled the trigger. For Turner, he painted it out of sheer passion and devotion to Nelson. It should have been his greatest triumph, but it failed, and Turner's failure haunted him for decades, and he kept the painting closed off in his studio. But there's something everyone missed about this painting for nearly 2 centuries, something only unlocked by modern imaging technology. This is the hidden history of Turner's most misunderstood painting. In December of 1805, a battered warship dropped anchor at Sheerness at the mouth of the Thames, carrying a dead hero preserved in a barrel of brandy. Waiting on the shore with his sketchbook in hand was J.M.W. Turner. Turner was granted permission to board the Victory and spent days making sketches, detailed studies of the rigging, the weapons, the uniforms. Turner interviewed eyewitnesses, including Hardy, Nelson's flag captain. Hardy, rather tall, looks dreadful, fair, about 36 years. Turner did his homework. He did more preparatory studies for this painting than for any other painting he ever made. No one had asked him to make this painting. It wasn't a commission, but Turner wanted to commemorate a British hero, and to do that, he had to get into the mind of Nelson on that fateful day in 1805. By October of 1805, the British fleet had spent 2 years blockading the French coast to halt Napoleon's planned invasion, and when the enemy fleet finally came out, 33 ships against Britain's 27, Nelson split his fleet into 2 columns and drove them straight at the enemy line. At 11:45, the signal flags went up. England expects that every man will do his duty. The British fleet endured heavy enemy broadsides, but once they were in position, the British unleashed hellfire, and they were on the verge of winning when a French marksman in the mizzen top of the Redoutable 15 yards away, fired down onto the quarterdeck, and the shot severed Nelson's spine. "They have done for me at last, Hardy," Nelson said. "My backbone is shot through." Nelson was carried below, and as the battle raged, he asked for Hardy. When Hardy finally came, Nelson took his hand. Nelson said, "Kiss me, Hardy." Hardy knelt and kissed his cheek. "Now I am satisfied," said Nelson. "Thank God I have done my duty." Nelson died at 4:30 in the afternoon. The battle was already won. 17 enemy ships were captured, and Nelson's fleet had lost none. The British had their victory, and Turner set out to paint it. So what do we see in this painting? We find ourselves in the thick of battle, with a dying Nelson at the centre, dwarfed by the chaos around him. His death seems so small and trivial against the vast tornado of violence surrounding it. Nelson is made identifiable only by the thin shaft of light that catches his bright white uniform. It's as if Turner chose this deliberately. The great forces unleashed by Nelson himself had now consumed him. Thick smoke makes it impossible to connect the masts to the ships below, which must have been close to how the sailors experienced it, as if the gods were fighting wars above the reach of mortal men. And Turner uses the crowd to create a circuit of motion. Your eye follows Nelson falling, up to the Marines firing up at the mizzen top, and back down to Nelson. And Turner thought that he'd painted a masterpiece, and he had, but at the time, almost no one else thought so. One critic called it a British epic picture, the first of its kind that's ever been exhibited. But a Greenwich pensioner and a veteran of naval battles spoke for many when he looked at it and said, "I can't make English of it, sir. it wants altering altogether. It was a failure, and due to the wave of criticism, Turner reworked it and exhibited it again 2 years later. The response was muted. Turner never sold it. He kept it locked in his studio until he died. And that should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. Almost 2 decades later, King George IV gave Turner the chance to paint it again. The Battle of Trafalgar, 21st of October 1805, painted in 1822, is the largest painting Turner ever made. It took 16 months of work, including 11 days at St James's Palace with admirals and courtiers critiquing his work. And Turner recreates the battle in painstaking detail. It's much clearer than the first painting, with the action at a distance and HMS Victory at its heart. And though Nelson himself is missing from the painting, his presence is everywhere. The signal flags on the Victory's mainmast spell out the final 3 letters of duty. Nelson's pre-battle signal and his dying words collapsed into one image. England expects that every man will do his duty. And hidden in the waves, there is his motto, Palmam, qui meroit, ferat. Let him who has earned it bear the palm. Nelson's personal motto encoded in the sea itself. But Turner failed again. Naval historian William James accused him of, quote, glaring falsehoods. Hardy pronounced it, the ships more like houses than men of war. King George IV was not pleased with it. Instead of displaying it in his royal household, he donated it to Greenwich Hospital in 1829. Turner never received another royal commission. He had painted the British Navy's greatest victory twice, and he'd been rejected twice. But everyone looking for accuracy was missing something about Turner's genius. Something that would stay hidden for over 180 years. And to find it, we have to go back to the very first painting. In 1806, Turner produced a handwritten key and a written description of that painting for gallery visitors. Every figure was named, every detail explained. But in 1928, the Thames flooded the Tate stores and both documents were left largely illegible. For nearly 60 years, Turner's own explanation of his painting was invisible. Then, in 1989, ultraviolet scanning recovered the text, and Turner's own words confirm what he'd hidden in plain sight. In his description, he wrote of the riflemen in the mizzen top of the Redoutable, the men firing down on the Victory's deck, the same mizzen top from the same ship that killed Nelson. Look up into the smoke and you can find them. The Tate's own catalogue confirms it. Among all the figures Turner rearranged and invented, only 3 are placed where they truly stood. Nelson, Lieutenant Pascoe, and the marksman who shot him. The killers are in the painting, and Turner put them there deliberately. The shot and the fall of Nelson in the same breath, because in both paintings, Turner collapsed time itself. In the 1806 painting, it fuses the shot and the fall into a single instant. And in the 1822 painting, he goes further. The painting compresses 3 days into one frame. The signal flags at 11:45, the mast falling just after 1, the Achille burning late in the afternoon, the Redoutable sinking the following day. Everything is happening simultaneously to draw us into the feeling of the battle itself. Critics attacked the factual errors, but this was exactly Turner's gift. He created new facts with his paintings. Turner wasn't a mere illustrator. He was a genius at capturing the feeling, the experience of whatever he depicted, throwing us, the viewer, right into the vibrating heart of the event. Turner's 1822 painting ended up not in the palace of a king, but in Greenwich Hospital, where the veterans of the British Navy, crippled, old and infirm, lived out their last days. Among them were some of the eyewitnesses who had been there where Nelson fell. As we see depicted here, One of those old sea dogs shows a visitor Turner's painting of the battle, bringing them right back to the truth of what it felt like to be there. As Nelson said, on the eve of the battle, England expects that every man will do his duty, and Nelson did his duty. The sailors who fought beside him did theirs, and Turner did his, in both paintings. Every time we look at them, we're back in the midst of the battle. We're back on that deck, the smoke in our eyes, the cannon in our ears, and the heroic Nelson falling back, falling forever. Hi, I'm J.M.W. Straussler. I make art history and cultural history videos. Really hope you like this one. If you did, please like, share, comment and subscribe. All of your support is so appreciated. There should be a bit less of a gap between this video and the next one. But unfortunately in the past couple of months, a series of unfolding crises have hit me, so it's been difficult to put stuff out. Anyway, thank you for watching. Until next time.